Let's get right to it, and I'll introduce my good friend, Nancy Cartwright. All right, let's settle in here. So.
Cool,
welcome.
Man. This is awesome. I feel like you're in my living room.
Well, we've got a bunch of questions from the audience and from people online and stuff like that, and we'll get to that in due course. But I just want to ask you some questions, and hopefully we'll ask you some questions that have never been asked you before. You've been interviewed numerous times.
Yeah.
And
you know what? I have a surprise for you guys. Whoever asked me a question that I've never been asked before, including, where's the live streaming camera? Where is that? Anyway, right there. Hi. Hi, you guys at home or wherever you are. Yeah, whoever asked me a question that I've never been asked before, will get your personal information. I'll send you an autographed T-shirt. Nice.
Nice. Well, let's go back a little bit, just in terms of your time and the beginnings of your career, just for the heck of it, and let's talk about Ohio a little bit. Tell us about the house you grew up. Big shout out to Ohio. Is it Dayton, Ohio?
Yeah, just south of Dayton.
Just south of Dayton.
Yeah.
What was the name of the town?
Kettering.
Kettering, Ohio.
Kettering, Ohio.
And what was the house like that you grew up in? Big house, ginormous?
You know, I was number 4 of 6 kids, and we lived in a upper middle class family, and I loved growing up there. There was a lot of green grass, and you know, it's parks and recreation, and with my brothers and sisters. It was a very Catholic neighborhood. Lots of kids, lots and lots of kids. There must have been 65 kids in my neighborhood, and we played all kinds of games and stuff. And obviously, this is before Twitter and tweeting and Facebook and cable television, and you made your own fun outside, and it was a whistle that would bring us home at night from my dad, that we would all come inside to you know, to go to bed. But it was lots of activity outside. It was fun, and I was never bored. There was always something to do. Yeah.
Were you part of like a group of kids that would put on plays or do little shows?
Yeah, we did stuff like that with the next door. They had neighbors, the Foleses. They had like 10 kids. And just our 2 families, we had all kinds of fun and games. We did talent shows. We did beauty pageants and talent shows. And the challenge was to come up with a talent act, you know, that kind of surprised everybody else. And eventually I got into community theater, like children's theater and community theater, and started acting because I loved creating that effect. I loved making people laugh. And I was not really the class clown at my school, but I just liked saying things that would make people happy, and that's what I would kind of do. And you know, when people laugh and enjoy what you're doing, you tend to seek to do more of that. So I found that by performing, that's what gave me that pleasure. So I felt everybody, you know, we all win on that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, now, were you a cartoon-watching little kid?
Yeah, I don't think it was something that, it's not something that I said to myself that I'm going to be doing cartoons when I grow up. I just, you know, I watched the Jetsons and the Flintstones. I love Pebbles. I love, you know, Johnny Quest, I think, was another one that I really kind of liked. And the Looney Tunes, of course, the Warner Brothers stuff. Huckleberry Hound, Yogi Bear, kind of grew up in that time. But it wasn't like I didn't feel like I was, that I had set my goal that young to doing cartoon voices. But what ended up happening was I ended up going to a public school that offered all kinds of opportunities, from gymnastics to, I was in the marching band, but they had a speech team. And when I got on the speech team really interested me. I had heard about it, and it sounded like an awful lot of fun, that you would tell stories and compete, and you could get trophies, and that just sort of interested me. So I got involved with it, and I did pretty good. I did really, really good, actually, and ended up, my junior and senior year at high school, I ended up placing first place in the National District Championship. It was 2 years in a row, that was held at Ohio University. And
What was the topic of your speech?
yeah, I did,
Big prize-winning speech.
well, it was humorous. One year I'd focused on children's stories, and I'd done, it was a James Thurber piece called Many Moons. And then the next year I did another one called 13 Clocks, was a little more obscure, but I was doing all these voices, and it was like, it must have been 6 or 7 voices, and mostly, ironically, male voices. Many Moons is a story about a little princess, and the only female voice was her, and the rest were all the royal mathematician, and they were written as men. So I never gave it a second thought. I just did it and would get first place and bring home some hardware. My brother's like, on the basement, Little League, and I'm bringing home this big trophy, and he got a little dinky thing like, That was pretty cool. But I didn't really, even then, the idea of doing cartoons didn't really hit me until there was a consistent comment from the judges, because I would get at the end of the tournament, you get the comment sheet from the judges, and there was a consistent critique there that said, you have an interesting voice, you should do cartoons. Are you kidding me? I mean, I'm like, wow. You can do that and like make a living doing it. It's just like it never occurred to me.
Can you recall your understanding of what that process is like? Because it's pretty sophisticated for a kid to even recognize that actors are doing it and not that they are little beings that exist somewhere.
Yeah, I do remember when I was really little, like wondering like I remember going to the back of my television set and kind of looking in there and trying to figure it out, really little. Yeah. But then I didn't really give it much thought. Right just before I ended up getting a scholarship, by the way, to go to Ohio University. So those 2 tournaments were really quite significant. But that summer before, I worked at a radio station. I figured, if I'm going to be a communications major, because they don't have a major in cartoon voices. But but they did have a speech team there, and I thought, well, how can all right, so I'll do that. But I thought, I want to get a job. I'll work at the radio station because that's pretty close, and it's not like I wanted to be a DJ. I hadn't set my sights on doing that. I wasn't quite sure how I'm going to do cartoon voices working at a radio, but I could do commercials. That'd be all right. So I worked at this radio station, WING, home of aviation, winging it in Dayton. But I lived for the afternoon. My boss eventually asked me if I wanted to go on the air and do a little promo for the radio station, and I said absolutely, and created a little character named Lily Pad. But the key thing that really turned it around for me was a woman came in from Warner Brothers Music, and Warner Brothers to me, as well as to many of you here, meant Mel Blanc, right? And I'm like, wow, Warner Brothers Music, maybe she knows Mel Blanc. I mean, they're 2 totally different departments, at the student. They're not even on the same lot. But, my boss was awesome, and he introduced me to this woman, Ann Schwiebel, and she was so kind to me, and she said, listen, I'd love to help you. Here's my business card, but, put a little tape together, and I'll take it, and I can maybe get it to a few people that can help you out, and, stay in touch with me. And she was super kind, and with that, it just opened the door wide open. So at nighttime, I would stay late, or I would go late to the station, and I fool around in the booth and put together a demo tape is like what, 1.5, 2 minutes long. You don't really need mine was 14 minutes long.
It's a mini-series.
Yeah, truly. I had no idea what I was doing, but at the same time, can you get the idea that was a good thing? I didn't have there were no preconceived notions. There was nothing that was put there that says you should do it this way. It was just, I could do no wrong because I didn't have any stops preventing me from just doing what I felt was right. So I put this thing together of all these humorous interpretation. They were long, and it was
What did you record them on? The
radio
station
reel.
stuff? Reel to
Yeah,
reel.
it was
Okay.
reel to
so
reel.
you wound up with a reel,
Yeah.
or an actual reel.
Yes, exactly. Put a reel together, and then I sent it to her, and then a bit later, I ended up getting a letter back from her, and in this letter, she had names and addresses of a number of studios, and one of them, was Hanna-Barbera, and I think Walt Disney was on there, and she had little comments about each one of them, but there was a name that I did not recognize and a phone number, and his name was Daws Butler, and I didn't know who he was. At that time, I had no idea who he was. But she said he did the voice of Roadrunner. I'm like, it's not a voice. I said, well, that sounds interesting. I'm going to call this guy anyway and find out what the deal is. So I called him up and left a message. He had an outgoing message. Now, we didn't have an answering machine. This was 1977, 76, I guess 77. And I just listened to this. He's like, this is Mr. Butler speaking, Daws Butler's butler. Do you leave your name after the beep, beep? I'm like, hello, Mr. Butler, this is Nancy Cartwright calling from Dayton, Ohio. And I hung up the phone. I was so embarrassed. I can't believe that I had done that, But it worked. It worked. It was spontaneous. It was like... it was just unbridled, right? It was just like I went with my instincts. So, trust your instincts. So I went with it. Next thing I know, he did call me. And from that second on, he became my long-distance mentor. And he would send me he would send me a script in the mail, and I would look at it. Sometimes I would get a fellow student that was also on the speech team, because sometimes it was a male, female, and we would go to one of the rooms there and lay it down on and that was a cassette now.
Moving up.
Yeah, hey, moving up, technically. So anyway, I would mail it back to him, and he'd listen and critique me by a verbal critique on another cassette and mail that back to me.
What would be an example of a critique that Daws Butler would give you that you'd get back? Can you recall any of the specific things that he said?
Wow.
Or the way he would say it or the way he would phrase it?
Recently, this is so funny you asked this, because I was going through and just kind of cleaning out some things, and I came across a box, and it was loaded with all kinds of these tapes, and I thought, geez, do I even have a cassette player anymore? Because, we do have one, so I stuck it in, I thought, I live in Northridge, and it's like so hot there, and has the thing been destroyed? I play, oh my God, it still worked. And I listened to it and listened to his critique. He was awesome. He was just like, the guy took so much care, and he would do it in a way. He never taught me how to do voices, but it was his care and his interest, and it was always positive, and he focused on the good things that I did. I felt great. I felt like a star, but this was Dayton, Ohio. How am I going to do? So I'm like, wow. On my own, I decided I got to go be with him. So I told my mom and dad I wanted to transfer, and where are you going to go? They said, I don't know. Let's look at the map. Okay, here's Beverly Hills, and here's USC is over here, but whoa, UCLA is like right next door. So I applied and got accepted at UCLA and moved, just said goodbye to my friends and took off and moved to LA, and I had never even been on an airplane before. It was like this was something with my family that was something pretty special.
How long did you actually have this correspondence and long-distance tutelage with Daws before you decided to move out?
Like a year.
About a year, okay.
Yeah,
and
I
how
stayed
often
another
would
year.
you have this back and forth with him? Like every month?
Fairly regularly. I would say every couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. And I saved every letter. I put all the letters in a binder and kind of protected it, and knew something special was going on with. I couldn't believe it. The voice of Daws Butler is the voice of Huckleberry Hound, Yogi Bear, Quick Draw McGraw, Elroy Jetson, Babalooey, Cogswell Cog, Peter Potamus,
Captain
Crunch, Dixie, not Pixie, Dixie. Yeah.
Lots of
Willie,
others.
Chili Willie.
He is
actually
Hanna-Barbera,
spoke.
really.
Yeah, he was to Hanna-Barbera what Mel Blanc was to Warner Brothers, and I eventually did end up meeting and working with Mel Blanc. Daws and I we did do something together, but we weren't in the studio at the same time.
How tall was Daws Butler?
I'm 5'5.5". Daws is 4. He was so cute. He was so cute, adorable, man. My dad flew out with me. We went to it. He lived in Beverly Hills, right? Girl from Ohio, mentor lives in Beverly Hills, and I'm thinking, dun, 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 no, what?
You're thinking about Bonanza.
Well, I'm trying to Beverly Hillbillies. It's like, wow, I don't know. I didn't know what kind of a mansion the guy must live in. But I showed up at his house. He had 4 sons, and and his lovely wife, and went to his house, and he had lived in this house for a long time. His widow is still there. His Daws passed away in '86, right when I got The Simpsons. It actually was the Tracy Ullman show, and we were doing the vignettes on the Tracy Ullman show. He was around for that. But anyway, my dad and I go up, and it was a modest house, really, and knocked on the door. He opens it up, and he stands there, all 4'10" of him. Well, don't just stand there. Give your old mentor a hug. So sweet. Great guy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So then when you moved out, too, your mother was not well during this time.
Right. That was a
pretty-
little tough. We all go through, we all have obstacles and changes that occur throughout our lives, our careers, or whatever. And my mom was not well for a couple of years. She was battling cancer, and a couple weeks before I was to move, she passed away. She and my dad were supposed, both of them, see me out there together. But it was tough, and when I look at it, I didn't really have a proper grieving time. I didn't feel it happened so quickly. But I do sense that my mom, had it not happened at that time, say it happened later, it's like I felt like she so supported me that I needed to go on with what I was going to do. There was no way that I was going to stay in Ohio. I wanted to carry on with my career, and my family still very much supported me in that decision. And but when I moved out to California, even though Daws was there, mind you, it's like I knew him from a professional relationship, very long distance, that was really the relationship, but he knew what was going on, and I told him about my mom, was straight up front with him. And I think that's part of the reason, too, that he and his wife took me under their wing in a way. And I would ride the bus from Westwood down Wilshire Boulevard and hop off, and he and his wife would drive me home, take me out to dinner, and then drop me off at the dorm, because I was living at the dorm. And it was, I think about what it must have looked like to my roommate and some of the gals that also lived on the floor. It was a bit of it was special. And I didn't quite realize at the time how special it was.
Yeah.
I just felt like this is what I do.
Yeah. And were there other youngsters and students and aspiring artists that he also was maintaining a kind of a mentor relationship with?
Yeah. There were some other guys that did
these
it.
People that we would know? Or?
Sure. Well, you guys would probably know it more than your average bear that lives, that does other jobs, not interested so much in the voiceover industry. But you might recognize the names of Corey Burton, Noel North was a student. I think Townsend Coleman, I think, studied with him.
Wow. These are all very, very in-demand working professionals.
Yeah, and still doing it. These guys are the pioneers after the pioneers.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting, yeah. I didn't ask you that before. Does that mean
This guy.
Just saying.
Guy.
Well, now Corey Burton is one of the greats. Now, obviously, I'm just noticing that, in telling this story, which I've actually, I've heard before and I've read before, but, new things come out, and it's interesting because, a lot of people would get a demo tape together and meet somebody who's from Warner Brothers and send them that demo tape, and that person would never say anything again. They would never get anything back, let alone the phone number of the next person on the chain, and who also is willing to, So, obviously there was something in your early work that showed so much promise and potential that, this person wanted very much to help you and broke down all kinds of social barriers and say, well, here's the phone number of Daws Butler, here's the address of this person, here's 10 other people.
Right.
You know, I remember when I submitted I've done a fair amount of voiceover too. In New York, I submitted my first reel to somebody. It was like, again, 6-8 minutes long, you know, a monologue. And they said, don't ever send me anything again. And that was the end of that, you know, but most of us have to push the button a few more times than you did.
Yeah.
However, that's a great testament to, you know, just this great attitude that you must have had, this kind of like, hey, you know, I can do this, I want to do this, I think I'm good, and someone being able to detect, yeah, there's a lot of potential there and a lot of talent.
I think part of it has to do with I was doing what I really loved. I also had a family that supported me. You know, these are some tips that I have found to be very successful, and it's interesting, I never really looked at it as far back as that, but some successful actions that I have done that have catapulted me forward, and these are some of them. It's just like, definitely surround yourself with people who love who you are and your dreams. You guys know what I'm talking about. I mean, if somebody says, you know, I'm not sure why you're doing that, I think, again, how close a friend they are. I think as artists, we have the ability to make a difference on the planet. And if you're not going to make a living, you know, doing this, if you've tried and you're not quite making a living, you still should do everything that you can to cultivate and nurture that artist in you, because that's, to me, that's the gold, that's the gem of what makes such a difference on this planet. It's tough out there, and to make people laugh and share your art and enlighten and lift, help to elevate the culture. That's what I live for, and I think that's what we as artists should do. You know. Thanks.
Not just make a buck. That's I'm trying to understand what you just said. Well, that altruism and those big goals, those are definitely something that have carried you through, and that's been a growing theme. Let's stay in Ohio a little bit, I guess. I just want to know about that radio station a little bit more. You created those, and didn't you work with Jonathan Winters during that time too?
You know, Jonathan Winters, he was from Dayton, Ohio also, and we worked at the same radio station, but not at the same time.
Okay.
Yeah, he was there.
But you did a show with him or something, right?
Oh, yeah, I did. Well, that was when I had moved out here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but...
Wasn't the show in Ohio?
Yeah.
Okay.
We went back to Ohio.
All right. Okay. All right. And that was at Kenyon College?
Kenyon College, Gambier, Ohio. It was out in the boondocks, man, but whatever. He had worked at the radio station in the 60s, I believe it was the 60s, and he was trouble. But I mean, he would bring, like, he brought a horse. This radio station was like on the second floor of a studio in downtown Dayton. And he brought a horse up the steps and brought it into the station. I couldn't believe it. And the president and general manager, who's Jim Bennett, who was doing the news at the time, I mean, he about had a heart attack. And then another time, Jonathan Winters brought a bowling ball, and he just sat, and then the floor was not even, so he sat the bowling ball at one end and just touched it, and the bowling ball just while Jim was doing the news. He was trouble, and when I moved out here, and I was at UCLA, it was one summer I'd heard... No, I wasn't at UCLA anymore, but it was one summer, and they were casting for an ensemble group, and it was to work with Jonathan Winters back at Kenyon College in Gambier, Ohio, and I thought, oh my God, I'm so going to get this job. So I showed up, and all I had to tell him was like, hi, Jonathan, I'm from Dayton, Ohio. I worked at WING too, and I was cast. Yeah. It was cool.
You have something too that's great, this quality of benevolent competition, which I recognize also in my mother, actually, which is a very nice thing. It's like, I'm going to win this, and thereby a lot of people will win. It's not just, I'm going to cream you. It's like, I'm going to win this because this is going to be great for both teams. Cool. And that's pretty awesome. Well, let's come back to LA, because that's where so much exciting stuff happens. So you're with Daws, and you're studying with Daws, and you're going to college. And then what's the next big leap off?
Well, while I was still at college, I ended up, see, I would meet Daws, and it took a couple years. It didn't happen right away. He would take me out to Hanna-Barbera, and I got to sit there in the studio, and all of a sudden, it's like Joni Gerber was there, and I saw her name when I was working at the radio station. I did everything at the radio station. I did reception, I did PR and marketing, I was in accounting, and I was horrible. I wanted to get out of there so bad, and then they put me back in the traffic department, which was kind of fun. It's not like, parking SUVs or anything like that, but I was back there guiding and actually scheduling for all the advertisers for where their ads were going to go, and they call that trafficking because it's moving around these particles. Anyway, I would see, like for Photomat, I would schedule Photomat somewhere between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. and they
Take a moment of silence for Photomat. Just God bless them.
So that was fun, but I saw the name of the advertising agency, and sometimes they would even have the talent listed on the sales, I guess it was an invoice. And I would listen to these commercials, and it started kind of coming together. So then I started writing kind of fan letters to to Hanna-Barbera or to Joni Gerber or the advertising agency can you pass this letter on to Joni Gerber or whoever? And so here I am, and these people are standing right in front of me. I'm like, wow, this is too cool. And it took a lot of willpower to keep my mouth shut because I felt like they were doing some voices. I felt, I can do that. But I just, I wanted to just, said, it's going to happen. And I didn't jump out of my seat and just respected what they were doing.
Smart.
But, eventually they had me come in and I got to audition. I had to borrow somebody's car. I got so lost trying to get from Westwood to where the hell did he get? The 134 and how do you do that? It was so confusing it was raining. It would take me 4 hours to get there. Oh, it was a nightmare. And then yeah, it was bad.
When you went to Hanna-Barbera, though, you were a visiting person with Daws, right? Or
yes, at first I would, a visitor.
And would he introduce you and say, this is Nancy Cartwright,
Sure.
she's my protege, or she's my student, and she's going to do great things, and kind of pitch you a little bit? Or
I think he did that behind my back. He didn't do it
well,
in front of
better.
me. Yeah. But whatever he said to the directors, I don't know. But then it was like, this is Nancy Cartwright, and I started shaking some hands of the directors out there.
Yeah.
And within a fairly short amount of time, they started having me come out to audition. But he didn't take me out there until he felt I was ready to go. So I went out, shook hands, and next thing you know, I got an audition, and my first gig was spring of 1981, and I was Gloria on Richie Rich. We did a couple seasons. It was Frank Welker and Dick Beals, and it was, Joni Gerber. It was really, really fun.
now, I think there's a tremendous advantage that's to be led in and introduced is great, as just a kind of a promotional thing, and to be introduced by one of the greats is great. But I think above that even, is there not something tremendously valuable in seeing the actual process and seeing actually how the actors are working? Like you said, you looked at them and go, I can do that. I think it demystifies a little bit and gives you some prediction on, well, what is this job? Because a kid listening at home to a cartoon has no concept of, do people stand? Do they sit? Are they outside, inside? Do they have masks on? What is this job?
Gosh, you get 2 T-shirts, man. That's not fair, Jim. Wow, that's good. I remember being in the studio. This was at Hanna-Barbera, and it was funny, but they had, the way that it was set up was the microphones were all set up just like a regular studio with our stands and the mics and everything. But there was also, like what you guys, there were chairs sitting on risers so that public could kind of come in and listen, or the writers, the producers of it could come in and be there while we were recording.
Little bleachers in the booth where you recorded?
It was the space.
That's a big space.
It was it wasn't the size of this room.
Right. I remember that old room,
Actually,
but I
you know
don't
what?
remember
The whole
bleachers.
space might have been about this size now that I think about it, because they had a piano there, and they had a table, and then the mics were stood up. Not quite this big,
Yeah.
but close.
3/4, yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't, I saw them doing it. It just, I don't know, it didn't surprise me. It sort of made sense.
And you'd been in radio, so you know what a recording
Yeah.
booth was like.
But they were all together and listening, and the director, who was Gordon Hunt, he would, kind of guide us through it. We would do a table reading of it first, and then we just started the record, and that's how it was done. Yeah, I took it all kind of in stride, and I felt like I was the new kid on the block, and I just sort of had my manners in, and I was just kind of a little bit in awe of this talent that I was with, and I didn't want to lose my job.
Right. How old were you then?
Yeah. I was like 21. I think it was 21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
22 maybe? Yeah.
And that must have been tremendously exciting. Did you have an agent at that point?
No.
Yeah.
I did not have an agent. I did it
had a
without an
job,
agent.
yeah.
And I got the gig, and I remember I went to go get a new car, and I got this piece of, I couldn't, the bus wasn't working, and borrowing friends' cars, and I bought this, my insurance cost more than the car. That's all I could afford.
Oh, yeah.
It was bad. That was bad. But when the series, then when I got picked up, and we got picked up, I think, for a second season, then I got a little VW. It was cute. I named it Woodstock. It was yellow, that's why, because it looked like Woodstock, not the place, but the little bird.
And at what point did you get an agent?
Well, shortly after that, I figured it was probably time. I said, wow, if I got this one, maybe there's a chance that I could get more, and it might be a good idea for me to get an agent. So how did I ended up signing with Sutton, Barth, and Venari, and I went in, and they were thrilled. I said, I got this job. It's called Richie Rich. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but I probably need an agent. And, well, here, read this, Nancy. Okay, good, we'll take you. But I signed with them, and they started sending me out, and that was in 81. That was spring of 81. And at that same time, trying to think, Christmas of 1980, just a little bit before that, I had dropped out of school fall quarter before I got that gig. This is again at UCLA. I had done a play, and I was 22 at the time, and I was playing a 12-year-old on stage. And it was college, so you've got, guys that are 22, 23 playing like they're 60. It doesn't matter, it's theater. But I was playing younger instead of older, and the director asked me, who was a grad student, would you drop out of school for one quarter, because I want to do this in Hollywood as a play. And I said, whoa, that sounds kind of cool. Sure, I'll do that. So the university didn't know that I dropped out of school, but as far as they knew that I was still going to classes, how did I swing that? I dropped out of school, did this play, and it got a lot of attention. It was very controversial. It was called The Transgressor, and the play was set in like Cincinnati, Ohio, and I played the youngest daughter of 3 kids in a Midwestern family where the oldest son had gone away, and he was coming back, but he had his sex changed. So a woman played the part of this character who used to be my brother, and now he's come back and he's my sister. And it got a lot of attention, and next thing you know, I had theatrical agents were wanting to sign me. So I didn't have any agent at all. I hadn't even signed with SBV yet. And now I've got this agency interested in me, so they started sending me. I said, okay, and they sent me out on a general meeting. It wasn't an audition, but because of my work with Daws and cold readings, you all know what cold readings are, and sometimes freezing cold readings where you just read it, don't even read it to yourself, just start talking, just read what's on the page. Anyway, because of that skill or training or whatever, I went to this on-camera audition, and I was told ahead of time they might have you read something, and I said, okay, it didn't bother me. And sure enough, they did, and I did, and Next thing you know, will you wait? And we've got a few more people we'd like you to meet. And then a dozen people showed up, and it was ABC, and I got a TV pilot then. And all those things started taking off. Now I'm kind of like, working with Daws, got the agent, got the other agent. Now I'm kind of balancing on camera a little bit with doing voiceovers. But the on-camera stuff was never my dream. It wasn't really what I set out to do, but it was sort of like, oh, this sort of sounds cool. This is sort of along the line. I get to create characters, and I certainly didn't protest it. I thought, oh, okay, I'll try that. I never really had the passion or never had that idea that I could work on camera. It was always, from about 16 or so, it was the cartoon voices.
Got it. Wow. Interesting. Okay, so then I guess we should move forward a little bit rapidly because we want to get to some questions too.
Yeah.
And not just what I'm interested in. I'm interested in that third shirt. But the Simpsons story and how you got that, it's a well-known story. You've told it a million times. If you could tell us again, I'm sure we'd love to hear it.
Sure. So now a little fast forward to like, it's like, I don't know what year it was, 1987. I think I had, at that time, this was it was still syndicated television. There was no cable yet. Fox wasn't even a network. And I had this audition. My agent called and said they're looking for some voices to do these funny little vignettes. They're bumpers. And I said, a bumper? Yeah, an interstitial. An interstitial? What is that? Well, it goes before the commercial and after the commercial, and they're just these little cartoon, quirky characters. They want you for Lisa Simpson. Her name's Lisa Simpson. It's the daughter. Do they have any more? What else about her? Well, she's 8 years old, and she's the middle child. And that's all I had. I said, okay, all right, good. So I drove over the hill and went to the audition, and there was the picture of Lisa and a monologue, and it was okay. It was like, oh, I can do that. No big deal. But next to her was a picture of Bart, 10 years old, school-hating, underachiever, and proud of it. It just pulls at the heartstrings. So then shove Lisa aside. I went in. I said, hi, Matt. Hi, Nancy Cartwright. Nice to meet you. So listen, I was just wondering. I didn't really want to do. I want to do the kid. Is that all right? Can I do the kid? Sure, that's fine.
That's Matt Groening there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was just Matt. Matt was behind a desk, and I walked in, and I said, blah, 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 blah. Oh, my God, that's him. That's Bart. And he hired me on the spot.
On the spot.
That's that thing about trusting your instincts, because,
yeah.
There's no way that I would have been cast as Lisa. And there's no way that Yardley would ever have been cast as Bart Simpson. And ironically, she told me years later that she was supposed to go in and audition for Bart.
Wow, wow.
Can you imagine? Look at that.
It's kind of scary looking back at that the tenuousness of all
Yeah.
that. But it's exactly
A decision.
You're sticking by your guns and,
Yeah.
and playing your instincts.
Yeah.
And trusting your instincts. Very interesting. Wow. And then that's like 24 years ago? And it is now what's the stat on The Simpsons? It's the longest running scripted television show?
That's how
in the
they
history
call
of
it.
mankind?
They call it scripted because you got Saturday Night Live, you got 60
Oh,
Minutes,
okay.
you got news programs and whatnot. But yeah, it's the longest running scripted one. We beat Gunsmoke.
Congratulations.
They had done 20 years, and we're in season 25. I think there's an option to do another year. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't want it to end. It's like way fun, right? Today, today was an awesome day. I got up and went over to the studio, and we had a table read, which we do on Thursdays. Starts at 10 o'clock.
Which studio is it? No, it's Fox, right?
This is at Fox, and right on the Fox lot. But Billy West was there, and John DiMaggio, and Lauren Tom, and it's like the cast for Futurama, right? So they're doing a show where they're doing a little crossover. I guess they call it. It's not really a crossover show. They're mixing the Futurama characters with with The Simpsons. It was hilarious. I think it's going to be a little bit of a classic. You guys will see it. No, we will record that on Monday, and it takes about 5 to 6 months to actually complete that episode. That's how long it takes. The standard of The Simpsons is above and beyond any other animated show on television. It's just extraordinary, and Jim and Matt and Sam Simon put that there from the very beginning, that their standard is so high that they keep the integrity of that show in place. And I think that's the biggest reason why the show continues to be as successful as it is, in addition to the fact that it's about this quirky family that we can all relate to some character, either in the family itself or the 160,000 citizens of Springfield, you know?
You mentioned Jim, that's Jim Brooks.
Right.
Talk about him a little bit. What's it like, the collaboration with James Brooks?
You know, Jim and Matt, by the way, still, they're there on Thursdays for the table read. They're still very much involved. They give notes, not to the actors, but they're taking notes for the writers, because the table read itself is, although I can see it as a rehearsal for myself and for the other actors, that's not its purpose. It really is for the writers. And you can imagine after, when this thing started taking off, that's crucial. I mean, for any television show, whether it's on camera or an animated show, it all starts with that written word. And then from there, it becomes this very collaborative art form, because Mike Anderson was there. You see his name as one of the directors, and he's been around for an awful long time. David Silverman was there today. It was just really, gosh, to get paid for what you love to do and to burp and fart and get a paycheck for that, there's nothing that beats that, right? You do sound effects and whatever you want, and it's just great fun.
Well, could you do your oatmeal bubbling sound effect?
My oatmeal bubbles maybe sound like a motorboat, too. These are things that, I
like
kind
that
of
one.
enjoy watching people's faces and their mouths and how they form sound effects. And when I go to movies, I look at actors and actresses and see their teeth and how their teeth are. You remember Mrs. Doubtfire? Right? There's the little girl in that, Mara Wilson. She was like 5 or 6 years old.
She had this little voice, and it's just sort of like, this is a character that I've never had the opportunity to do before. But if you sort of exaggerate just a little bit what you're doing, you see my lips, I sort of become a cartoon character myself when I do the voice.
But see, that's how you can do it. You can study life, look at people at the airport, watch people when you're going to the mall or go to the movies and see the jaw of someone, because if someone's talking like this, you can come up with a whole character. You see what I mean? It's easy. Your imagination, you can just let go, and you're not wrong. You can't make mistakes doing this. You can only, you don't see it as, it's a playground. It's a wonderful thing to be an artist, to be able to pull out of your imagination, and you just can't make any mistakes doing that.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because from a couple different angles, it interests me. So obviously, you've got a working, technique. You probably don't think of it as a technique particularly, but it's the way that you approach things, right? Plus, you've also seen terrific voice actors, the best, and you've seen what they do. And what kind of things have you learned over the years for instance, from watching other people?
Well, for one thing, people ask me this, and I guess a lot of voice actors, they do warm-up exercises, and they, me, I never did it. I don't know. I never had to. There's tongue twisters that you can do. Unique New York, unique New York. I just never got into that. Red leather, yellow leather, red leather, yellow leather. What did you do today? A minute or two to do. A thing distinctly hard to stay, or harder still to do. You can do all that stuff, but for me, it's just, what's the point? I don't know. I just do.
But you can do it the first time. I can say red leather.
Everybody,
once.
let's all do it now. I don't know. I just think as an art, you can just turn it on and turn it off.
Yeah. Have you seen professionals do that, or do you mostly see people?
Yeah, but I'm not gonna hang out the dirty laundry. I don't.
Right, right. No, but I mean the other side, the other of a professional just doing it, just creating a character on the spot, and
Yeah,
like
well,
your
you
fellow
got to be able
castmates.
to do that. You really have to
That's
be
a
able
big
to
part
do
of the
that.
job, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I mean, from going in, you'll get a copy, and even Bart Simpson, really, it's like a 10-year-old boy. What does a 10-year-old boy sound like? You know, my idea of a 10-year-old boy is going to be different than your idea, you know, or your idea. And the producer and the writer and the director's idea, they have their, so I'll go in and give them I'll give them my best 3 shots. Here's an idea for you. What about this? And then you kind of play around. You really got to listen. You really got to listen to what they're saying and duplicate it. Because if you're too nervous, somehow you got to get to a place for yourself and you get that confidence up that you can actually be in the room. Because if you can't even be in the room, how are you going to be able to get what they're even saying? You know what I mean? So once you've arrived and you're there and you can sort of chill out, you can sort of look around and say, okay, there's a couch. Okay, I got that down. Okay, a microphone. Hi, how you doing? I'm Nancy Cartwright. And you just like have a real conversation with somebody. When you can do that, you can start. That's how I do it. I really make sure that I have that line with whoever's giving me the direction so I can get what they're saying and duplicate it and then deliver the goods. And I always check at the end of even a commercial. I'm being hired to do a commercial for something. Did you get what you wanted? Are you happy with what I've done here? You guys good with this? Because we need to do it a couple more times. I'm good. You're good? Good. I'm good. I'm out of here. Bye. And then you go on your way. But always just make sure if they're happy, you know. And if you're not happy, could I just do that one more time? Would you mind? There's a story. Should I share a story?
All right.
Here's a good story. I had the privilege, you guys have maybe seen the episode, when Meryl Streep was a guest star on The Simpsons. She was Jessica Lovejoy, the Reverend's bad girl daughter. And we were to do this record, and they set it up. It was just her. It was her character and Bart. So they set up a private thing at a different studio. And I showed up, and I was all excited. I'm thinking, oh, God, should I get Meryl's autograph? I kind of want it, but I don't want to. How am I going to do this? Okay, be cool, be cool. Look in the room. There's the microphone. I'm here. I'm comfortable. It's all good. So Meryl shows up, and all the introductions are made, and this is the director and the writer, and this is Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson. This is Meryl. Hi! My heart! I'm going, wow, she's a fan. That's so cool. So we go in, and we're going to do the record, and they had our stands facing the editor, the engineer. She and I were side by side, and we're talking, and it's tough. You know, this isn't her industry. She's not voiceover. She's on the other side. So she's talking like that. I mean, you can hear. I just like, you know what I'm talking about, right? And I saw it immediately, and it's like, hey, I want to see. Could we take a second? Can you make us face each other so I can see? I got Meryl Streep right in front of me. I want to see her pretty face. So they face each other. Now we're talking, and she's doing it, and she's getting more and more comfortable, and she's like, great. So we do 1 take. We do 2 takes. Typically, we'll do 4 takes. We do 4 takes, and she's like, would you mind? I've got another idea. Could I just do 1 more take? I said, oh, yeah, sure, fine. So she did another take. I've got another idea. Would you mind? Could we? 10 takes later, she was amazing. I mean, everything, all the respect and what you know about Meryl, it's so true. She's a consummate professional. So that's the other thing, be a professional. I was so not put out. I was like, oh my God, Meryl, you're making me look bad. You know, it was inspiring because she was endless. She just had all these ideas. It was great. So now we're leaving. We're getting ready to leave, signing contracts. I'm walking out the door. I'm heading towards, there's the doorknob. I'm thinking, if you're going to get her autograph, you better get it now. And so then all of a sudden I feel the tap on my shoulder and I turn and it's Meryl. And she says, Nancy, my kids, they're too young. You know, they're too young to watch my movies, but they're huge fans of The Simpsons. And I was just wondering, could I have your autograph? One of my most favorite stories.
It's monumental. That's great. Wow. Well, I know you've had other great run-ins with pros and
it's
stories.
fun.
If you have another swell story, I'll let you tell it.
Geez, I directed Spartacus. That was cool.
That's right.
Yeah, Kirk Douglas had come in and he was working on location nearby, and he had just amount of time. He had just amount of time to come to the studio, do his thing, and then go back to work again. And I think something had happened. He had had an accident or a stroke, I think, and he showed up. And we go in the studio, and he's right next to me, and he said, one take. We're going to do one take. I got to go. And I said, oh, that's fine. I kind of look up at the director. He's starting to get a little pale. But, okay, it's okay. He was in the booth. I said, that's fine. So I handed him his headset. No, I don't use those. I don't want to use those. They hurt my ears. I'm not going to use that. And now, oh, that's fine, Mr. Douglas. I'll tell you what, if it's all right with the director, you can tell me and I can tell him. Are we cool? And he says, yeah, that's a good idea, Nancy, good idea. So let's start. Good idea. So we start whenever you're ready. Yeah, whenever you're ready, Mr. Douglas, go ahead and start he had a long monologue, and I had a couple lines, and then he came back in again. So we start to do the monologue. He starts to say he's doing fine, but halfway into one take, right? Halfway into the thing, he said a word wrong, and it didn't quite make sense. And he kept going, and I'm thinking, oh no, what are we going to do? He's not going to want to do. So I went. He's looking at me. I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What are you sorry about? He said, I just ruined your take. I'm so sorry. Well, that's all right. I said, oh, okay, good. Good. Then, why don't we take it up right here? You know where you said blah, 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 and I said the right word. Just pick it up right there. I said, are you good with that? Okay, go just pick it whenever you're ready, Mr. Douglas. Score! And we got it. When we finished, I couldn't find the director. I think he passed out.
That's a magnificent story.
It was really fun.
Wow. Let me ask you this. And what is the job? What's the job description as you see it for what you do? And what you were talking about professionalism, how important that is. What do you see as the job?
Like when I show up there and I put my stuff down, like I show up in the
what
studio.
What's your purpose and what's the requirement and what your product is? You know.
Well, I think the job really is I've been hired to do a voice or voices, and they are wanting me to really contribute to the writing, to the whole development and creation of this particular show. In this particular show about this family, it's like, how do I come up with a voice or two or three or four or seven or however many it is that enhance that? So as a voice artist, sure, there's the art, there's the writing and there's the artwork, but as the voice, you're actually the one that's imbuing the life into an inanimate drawing. And so they take that and couple it with the artwork and couple it with layers of inanimate artwork. At least that was the original way they did it. Of course, now they do it by computers, but the concept's still the same.
Still inanimate.
Yeah, it's still kind of dead. But when you put the voice to it and it's all layered like that, it comes to life. So there's with every show, there's the good writing, there's a message the writer, I think, is trying to communicate. And through these characters, we get these messages out.
That's great. That's a really good description, I think. Yeah, that's very
Thanks.
practical, yeah.
Okay, you just got your third T-shirt there, buddy.
I should have brought a suitcase. Oh, I'll give it to you. T-shirt goes to you. Well, I don't know. We could go to questions now, I guess. Let's go to the questions. I've been hogging you this whole time, and hopefully those have been useful. Okay. So, Bill Lord, who is watching our live stream, hey, Bill, says, what is the biggest challenge when voicing two characters who interact with each other in the same scene? What techniques do you use to separate those two characters?
The biggest challenge is not to overlap myself. Ba-dum-bum. I think, what's the biggest challenge? I think there are a couple characters that I do that it's very difficult to go from one character to the other.
Bart is a pretty easy guy to do. He's pretty easy. I can kind of go from Bart
To Nelson Muntz very easily. But
when I'm doing Ralph Wiggum,
and Nelson,
like if I'm doing Ralph Wiggum and Bart Simpson,
it's a little tough. So for me, I think the challenge is to, as quickly as possible, just commit 100% to that character. And believe me, during table reads, sometimes I have, and the other actors have had, to have conversations with ourselves, so to speak, by playing multiple voices. And man, it's a workout. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot of fun, but to me, it's a lot of upper body respiration, kind of like, it's a workout because my heart is pounding. I really want to get it right. I want to do a good job, for the writers so they can really, really get it. So it's to just really be comfortable being there and trust that I know what I'm doing and just do what I know.
Great.
And I think not thinking about it also is another thing. I just trust that I know. There's a difference between thinking about doing something and just knowing you know how to do it. And the knowing thing is the key.
Certainty, right?
Absolutely.
And will you ever, just mechanically, record, if you say one voice is hard to go back and forth, will you record like Bart all the way through and then come back and pick up one of these other voices? Or do you just go back and just
At this
naturally?
point on the show, no. I flip back and forth, and I can do that with myself on that show.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That was his question, Bill Lord. Moving on to Lauren Michaels, not Lauren Michaels, but Lauren Michaels, says, do you think that growing up with less technological stimulation in a small town helped fuel your imagination and ability to create voices? I'm from Dayton, too.
Really? Wow, that's cool. I would venture to say probably yes, because there weren't as many distractions. I think it's tough to raise kids today without all the distractions that are out there. But at the same time, you can use the internet can be a wonderful tool. There's all kinds of, there's lots of websites that you can go to learn about voices. You can, I don't know.
Accents and
Exactly.
characters. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Singing, all that kind of stuff that will help you. I guess, but the practical thing, I think, is crucial. You have to not just study, but you actually need to do it.
Well, speaking to this too, of growing up in a less technologically overloaded kind of culture, as we both did, were you one of these kids who would? I've talked to many voiceover people, right? And a lot of them I find are people that, when they were little, had a cassette machine and made a little show and would work for hours to do all the characters and all the voices and try to make their own creation, and which was basically flexing, maybe for the first time, muscles that they will use for the rest of the career to the degree that they pursue it. And so, I mean, it sounds like you did that too growing up.
Not so much in terms of like tape recording and voiceovers, because that was more when I got into high school. But that experience, I think, as an actor, it helped me a lot to be involved with children's theater and doing the acting. And because, you know, when you're doing voices, you don't have the luxury of the makeup and the hair and prosthesis and costumes, and at the same time, you also don't have to memorize the lines. You don't have to hit your marks. You can, I mean, I don't wear pajamas to work. I don't know who came up with that concept. I think you can
It was
wear
LL Cool J.
But I mean, it's like you still, as an artist, and when you're creating characters, it's not just the sound of a voice. It has to be fully filled out. And it's funny, when I get into kind of analyzing the technical aspect of what it is that I do, I never worked that way before. So it's a little strange even saying this right now, but I just know that I have heard in the past, I used to listen to other people's listen to their tapes in the past, and I can tell fairly quickly when somebody is just trying to sound funny or trying to sound like a certain character, but it's not really, I don't really quite get the full 100% commitment to it.
What would you suggest to someone like that? Because there must be quite a few. I've heard them too, where you go,
Yeah.
wow, here's a demo tape and it's full of imitations of other very successful cartoon voices.
Right.
And you're like, oh, well, this is not something that's needed. What's needed is the originality, right?
Yeah, I think so, and I think what I'd said before too about observing, and you can keep drilling and practicing and doing it, but the key also is a willingness. You have to have the willingness to be able to go out there and do that. The difference between somebody being successful and not successful in a certain area has to do with his willingness to commit, right, to being a professional. And I would say that's where you can't give up. You can't give up.
What are those 6 steps, by the way, that you
Oh
have?
gosh.
It sounds like a good time to jump into the 6 steps. I hope you can remember all 6. We'll
tips.
try to
I don't know
help
if I
you.
can remember all 6 of them. Okay, do what you love.
Let's talk about that one first, and then ease into it.
Well, yeah, do what you love. I mean,
Sounds simple, but
well, it does sound simple, but I've spoken at a lot of universities, and I know, having been there myself, there are a lot of kids that, you know, they go there because their dad wants them to be a lawyer, their mom wants them to be a doctor. They're not doing their passion. So do what you love, and if it's voiceovers and you really, really love it, and here's the deal, there's a lot of people out there that is their passion. If it's not your passion, on camera was not my passion. And I did it. I did Cheers and Empty Nest and Mr. Belvedere, or, you know, Twilight Zone, the movie. You can look it up. Wow, I was pretty young. But and I did it for a while and had a lot of fun doing it. But it got to a point where I realized it wasn't my passion. And there were other people that were doing it better than me because it was their passion. So if you're going to do something, you can't be a dilettante. That's what it is. It was. So do what you love. And then I mentioned this other one, surround yourself with people who believe in your dreams. That's really, really important. Because if there's it could be somebody very close to you and you don't even know it. It could be a spouse, it could be a sibling, you know, it could be a parent, whatever, but somebody's like, are you sure you need something to back, you know, a second, you know, plan B kind of a thing. When you're starting out, man, and at some point, by the way, if you're juggling between, you know, being a UPS driver and doing voiceover work, and you're doing pretty good with the voiceover stuff, there will come a day when you're going to have to say goodbye to the truck. You know what I mean? And you will have to take that big giant step, and it's probably going to be kind of scary, but that's
especially if you live in the truck. That's gonna be but that's enough about me and my sad past. But there will be people also, as you get more successful, you'll continue to have people every now and then that'll come up and say, well, you know, you don't really, you know, you're not really.
Yeah, well, I say keep on doing well. those people that, the naysayers that make you feel bad. And by the way, this isn't just about voiceovers. This is just a freebie here, is that, just in life, if people you walk away from a conversation and you don't feel so great, when you get home, you might take a look at that. Who are your friends? So I'm very particular about the people I keep in my company, and I think it's important to do that as an artist, as anybody. So that's that one. And then hitch your wagon to a star. I think that's a good one. It's a good idea to surround yourself. It's sort of like playing tennis. You always want to play tennis with somebody that's a little bit better than you,
I don't
Good
feel that
actors.
way. I don't like to. Now that you bring it up, yeah, just in tennis, though.
So, K3, be a professional. Trust your instincts.
Well, let's talk about that hitch your wagon to a star, because does that mean surround yourself with, and try to get into relationships, working relationships, artistic relationships
Yeah.
with people that are very,
That are successful,
very
that are already
successful and
doing
challenging
it.
and.
Yeah, I mean, I had that going on, and I realized, wow, that was a successful action. And if it's a letter writing, you just, through networking, there's all kinds of opportunities. I mean, through the union, there's opportunities and other networking things. There's the periodicals that come out, the industry papers, and acting classes. That's what I would say is. It's not like you could just walk up to somebody and say, hey, I want to be your friend. There's I don't know how you do that, but that's what I've found to be.
Well, and isn't it a kind of an attitude of an openness and willingness to do that too, and to reach, because I've talked to many actors who, you go, well, what are you doing for your career? What are you doing to promote yourself? They go, well, I'm waiting around for, they basically are waiting. They're going to the gym and they're doing
Yeah.
whatever, and they're waiting for the thing to arrive at their door, because that's what they assumed was going to happen, because it has happened.
Right.
Things do arrive sometimes, but as a working basis, as an operational, technology, it's not always going to win the day, whereas being willing to reach, being willing to ask, being willing to say to your friend, could you take my picture into your agent,
Yeah.
or,
Yeah, sometimes you just got to cross over the line where it might be a little bit risky. You might feel that it's a little bit risky for you to take that extra step, to ask somebody to do a favor for you. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you could do that. Or if you find yourself working on a set and there's somebody there that has more experience than you do, to have a conversation with this person and wouldn't say interview them, but ask them, how did you do it? How did you become so successful? And it doesn't even have to be somebody that's a star, but somebody that's working, somebody that's doing it. What did you do? Mm-hmm. How did you do that? And by the way, if it's somebody in a class, in a relationship that you can build up with someone, it would not be inappropriate to ask if they could help you. People like to help. I found that to be true. People like to help. You could take that one with you. It's true.
Help
Most
yourself to
people
that
are
one.
good, and they really want to help out.
Yeah. Oh, good. So is that number 3 or number 4? I don't remember. But let's take a question while you're thinking about that. We did Lauren Michaels. Okay, that was exciting. Okay, Jill Seltzer. We met Jill Seltzer, didn't we?
Well, about in the room, are these from the guys here?
Yeah, this is from the guys here, I think. Cary Grant once said that he came to have a relationship between who he was and who Cary Grant was.
Do you guys know who Jim Meskimen is? Do you know
It's not
he
important.
does like
it
these?
Isn't important at all. Do you have a relationship in that way with Bart Simpson?
I didn't get it.
Oh.
What was that? Say it again.
Okay,
Wait,
he
is
once
this
said
person
that-
in the room?
Jill Seltzer?
Is Jill here?
Seltzer.
Jill Seltzer here. Jill Seltzer, please come pick up the white courtesy
Jill here?
telephone.
Well, the seltzer's out of the bottle now. Cary Grant once said that he came to have a relationship between who he was and who Cary Grant was. Like there were two different people. Like there was the Cary Grant that who he thought he was, and who
Right.
Cary Grant with lights all over it was. Do you have
Oh.
that sort of relationship with Bart Simpson? Well, I guess so.
No, that's weird. I don't think so. No, I mean, I can I can.
You can tell yourself apart from Bart, right?
Yeah, no, that's actually kind of an interesting question. When I was doing some on-camera stuff, and I would see myself in Twilight Zone or Cheers or whatever, I would look at myself and go, "Oh yeah, I remember that day that I shot that. Yeah, that was. Oh yeah, wow. I didn't get along with, or wow, that was so fun working with such and such." And it was hard for me to see myself as that character. This is just me. So I didn't I didn't like to look at the dailies. I had a problem with, I got very critical of myself. I didn't think that was a smart thing to do. With Bart Simpson, oh man, I just become a fan of the show. I just watch it and enjoy it. I'm not thinking that's me doing the voice. I just go, I don't remember recording that. When did I do that? How old is this show? Did we do that last year or 18 years ago, you know?
Wow, what a great illusion that is.
It is. It's a total illusion.
How many episodes now, by the way?
Well, over 500, I think it's like close to 550 by now. Does anybody know? I think it's around 550. Something like that.
Amazing.
Crazy.
Amazing. Jonathan Rumi, thank you for giving me the pronunciation. Question four. That's funny. This says question four. That's good. For you.
Cool.
Nancy Cartwright. Here's a good question. Do you still audition?
No.
Thank God.
I don't, and I'll tell you why. It's funny. It started happening a number of years ago. Because I still have an agent, and they would send me scripts to audition for these things. And I put a studio together. I had a studio for a while, and I would audition and submit them. Sometimes I would go in because I felt a little disconnected from my own agency. When you have a studio at home, I just wanted to go in and connect up with the guys at the agency. So I would do that. This was probably 10 years ago. And then I did that for a while. Then after a while, I'm going, you know what? I'm doing so many other things right now. I want to write a book. I want to develop a one-woman show. I want to do this. And I also thought, believe it or not, of you guys. Because I thought, you know what? Somebody else should get this job. Really, somebody else should get it. Somebody that should get it that wants to be there and do that and get started, and this will be a great job for them to do. And meanwhile, I got to take a little more responsibility, and I've got to, and for me, the challenge is, what can I do that will really kick me into a place where I find it, you know, that it has, not that The Simpsons has become, I'm certainly not complacent being there. It's still really, really fun, but as an artist, I need to challenge myself. So now I'm developing animation, you know, and being an executive producer, being a writer, and I'm writing a screenplay. So that's where I'm at with that. So no, I don't. If they want to give me and occasionally I'll get a call, and they'll say they want you to be on such and such. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like fun. Who else is on it? Blah, blah. Oh, that's great. Okay. And then I'll go do the job. But I don't audition anymore.
That's great. I think that's appropriate, for God's sake. Let's talk about some of your other projects you're producing. And how do you like producing?
I like it. I get to kind of go on the other side. But man, I'm pulling for the actor, too. I want the actor to do great, you know. I have that idea of the whole collaborative art form, but I get the whole enchilada now, and it's fun. I've got several guys that I'm working with. Peter Chenis, who's been the president of my company for...
Hi, Peter.
Hi, Peter. And another fellow, Billy Attinger. We're developing something together and having a blast, going out and pitching it to various studios and production companies and digital companies, and that's really fun.
And is it a challenge now? Because you don't just come in and say, hey, I'm Nancy Cartwright, and they go, oh, we'll greenlight anything you want to do, right?
Oh, no.
So it's a fun challenge, because you got to win. You got to win this, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. It definitely opens up the door, and a lot of these guys, man, that are running these studios, and Yahoo, and Amazon and all this, they're young people.
Right.
Some of them could be my kids, and it's funny to have them open, and they're like, I just want to say, I'm a big fan of yours. I go, that's great, but I still, it's not going to get, it's not a green light. Do I fit what it is that they're looking for? Do I present them as something that they haven't heard?
Do you think it's a good idea for people who are, in this day and age, starting out and wanting to be a part of this business, to create their own projects somehow and to get stuff up on the internet, for
there's
example?
so many opportunities to do that with the internet. You could create your own thing and get people to come to it. And I have a dear friend who was on a soap opera for a long time, and she made a big decision, and now she's got this show, and I think it's hilarious, called The Stafford Project. Michelle Stafford, who was on Young and the Restless, and she's not on it anymore, and it was a big decision for her. She wanted something challenging for herself and created something about her own life, and it's kind of amazing. And the promo on it, she's writing, she's producing, she's developed herself, she pulled in a couple of writing friends, and she's doing it, and I really admire that. So today, because of technology, you can do stuff like that. And the challenge, of course, will be, how do you get people to come see it? What kind of promotion do you do? Right. And like everyone else, like everyone, including the studios, how do you get people to come see you? It's a new game today.
Totally, and very, very internet-centric. And
yeah,
and now animation has changed so much. When I was growing up, and I also studied a little bit as a cartoonist and worked at Hanna-Barbera for a short time when I was 18. And to do an animated cartoon on your own was Herculean. I don't know how you would do it. Certain people did it, but it was like, oh my God, I don't have the thousands of dollars and the thousands of man hours. Now, with various applications and programs and things, a person could conceivably do an animated show in their house and put it up and develop a fan base and take it from there.
Right. They could enter it in some kind of a festival. They get some credit for it and then promote that. And you're networking. You got your Twitter. You got your Facebook. All that stuff. And the right person at the right time could see it, and if you're ready for it, and I think that too, for myself, I think I was ready for it. I had trained, if you will, doing the competitions, and so when the opportunity came, I was ready for it. So as long as you keep on cultivating what it is that you're doing, you can be ready for it when it happens.
Excellent. Scott, no last name, has a question for Nancy, whose name we know. Please share a fun or funny experience on set.
Let's see.
With Gary Marshall, Gary Marshall story, don't you?
Gary Marshall?
No, never mind. Don't you have a Gary Marshall story?
No.
Okay. Please share a fun or funny experience on set.
I want to hear it. Now I'm curious.
I'll make it up.
Okay. Let's see. A funny story on the set. Well, I was just kind of, generally speaking, I think Dan, who does Homer, Dan Castellano, who does Homer Simpson and does about 1,000 other voices, 999 voices. His voice is so booming that he's the only one that's sort of trapped. He's got these barriers on both sides of him so that his voice doesn't bleed over into. Yardley stands to my right, and Tress MacNeille is right here, and then it's Hank is right across from me, and Julie's between Pamela and Hank. There's Julie, and then Pamela is over there. So but Dan's all by himself. And the funnest is listening to Dan and Hank when their characters, you have Moe and Homer doing a riff between the two of them. The hardest thing is to make sure that we don't ruin their take, because they're so damn funny. They're so brilliant, and these guys will do the first take kind of as written. They'll do it a second time, and Dan, all of a sudden, I'm kind of looking at him, and he is one-man show, man. He's kind of doing his own thing. He's brilliant. So funny. And Hank, same thing.
Awesome. And Scott also wanted to know, what do you like to do when you are not working?
Well, when I'm not working, I have 2 kids. My daughter is married. She's very happy. She works for a production company and does a lot of editing and videotaping. She's also an artist. She's a dancer.
A wonderful dancer.
Thanks. Yeah, and my son he just proposed to his girlfriend, which is very sweet. And he's training to be an actor, and he's wonderful and delightful, and they want to have babies someday. And I say, that's great, let's get a job. That's a But, so I raised my kids. For fun, I like to, I have a NASCAR driver's license. 158.2 miles an hour is my top speed. Thank you very much.
Wow. 158 miles an hour? Oh, my Lord.
I like to drive fast on the track. That's fun.
Wow.
I sculpt. I really love sculpting. I found
do?
that, yeah, recently. I gotta show you
that.
what I did. Yeah.
You get a T-shirt. You get one of my T-shirts now. I did not know that. In fact, I'll give you this one.
What was your question?
Later,
you're
in a minute.
Scott.
In a minute. Yeah.
Awesome. That's what I do.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Okay, that's for Scott. And then, let's see. Caitlin Prentice, sorry. Can you talk about how you maintain humility with your success, should the occasion arise, and some of... It's just me adding stuff on. Can you talk about how you maintain humility with your success and some of the service and giving you do for others? Thank you. Because you do have philanthropic things that you do that people may not be aware of.
That first part of that question, I'm not sure how to answer that. How do I maintain humility? So, I don't know. I think probably I'm not sure. I just do what I do. I don't know.
Maybe you don't have to maintain your humility. Maybe it's just running just fine.
I have to check on that one. I'm not sure. I think I just do what I do. Okay, good.
Yeah.
So we'll move on. I hope I don't have too big of a head. You have to ask my staff. I don't think I should be the person you should ask on that. The other one about what
Just
was it?
Giving back to the
Giving
community. I know
back?
you're active in your community. And
Yeah. I think I love to give back. I think it goes along with that. People like to help. I think just innately we have that as beings, is that we like to help and help somebody else do better. I've been the honorary mayor of the entire North San Fernando Valley this is my 9th year doing it. And I dig it. I like being involved. I have a nonprofit organization called Happy House, and we have a program called Good Choices, and we took that program and ran it as a pilot in my local PALS, which is the Police Activities League supporters. It's a after-school program, and we ran my little program that teaches kids. It's a character building program, and so put that in there. It was very successful, and these kids did really, really well. And now I've got it's in 6 different locations throughout California. There's one in Seattle. It's in South Africa, so it's actually international now. And it's pretty cool. It's a great program, and the kids do well. And when you get comments back like, well, when I did this program, I found out that I can make a bad choice and go to prison, or I can make a good choice and not. I really feel like it's a good idea to make a good choice. Or I found out it's not a good thing to murder. It's true. That is true. That's a true story, and it's shocking. From Ohio to me to find out that that's that kid's reality on life. Was his life? Is that it's okay to murder? So I really like that.
that's awesome. This just in. Vivian Edmondson says, when are you going to teach a master class at the Voiceover Lab here?
Oh, wow. You know, I taught a class once, not here. I taught a class somewhere, and I don't know how they do it. Seriously, that is a skill. I am so blown away by good teachers. There's a lot of good teachers, and I recommend them. You guys can go to my website, too, because I have an awesome frequently asked questions section. There's tons of questions on there.
What is that website?
NancyCartwright.com. The Listen, somebody else, there are other Nancy Cartwrights on this planet.
Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled by imitations.
Imposter! I made a good deal with this Nancy. I called Nancy Cartwright up, and she got on the phone. I said, "Hi, Nancy. Is this Nancy Cartwright?" She goes, "Yes, this is Nancy." "Who's this?" This is Nancy Cartwright." She
Different
dropped the
emphasis
phone.
when you say it. Yeah.
It's true. And she goes, "You mean the Nancy Cartwright?"
Yes, that's what I mean.
It was funny.
That is funny. But you shut her down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
Humility.
Humility. That's maintaining humility. That's how you do it. Well, yeah, I don't know. Do we open this up to questions? We didn't discuss this very much. No, not so much. We kind of had it through the cards, and we could talk all night here, but we've been very, more. We got, pass the cards forward, and we'll do it. No, you're number 4. Number 4. Oh, we're number 4 of the 6. We got to finish.
Oh, my God, you
yeah,
guys.
thank you for remembering.
Oh, wow.
Thought we had golfers in the house. Okay.
Trust your instincts. Surround yourself with people who love you. Do what you love. Hitch your wagon to a star. Trust your instincts. I already said it. Be a professional. Oh, yeah. And then the last one is, here's the deal on the last one is you are responsible for the condition you're in. So, I mean, really get that. Really, really get that. You are responsible for the condition that you are in. No matter what part of life I'm talking about. In a relationship, the relationship with a loved one, a child, a spouse, the banker, the landlord, whatever it is, the neighbor, like your financial, whatever that is, you're responsible for that. So I say, if you're going to be 100% responsible for that condition, you better decide exactly what it is that you want to do. Really make a clean statement. Write it down of exactly what you want to do. Because I'm telling you, it's powerful. It is powerful. You can change the course of your life by making just one decision. And that's the 6th one. Thank you.
Here's another question. This was a question I wanted to ask you, so I'm glad Tom Baker asked it. What would your dear original mentor, which I guess you mean Daws Butler, say about the spectrum of gifts that you've given all these years? What would he say about what you've created?
Oh, he was such a sweet dude, man. He did this. That's what he did. That's what he did. I think he would dig it. Yeah, I think he would have loved it. I wish that he could have been there and experienced a little bit more of it. But yeah, I have that in that's kind of special, you know, that I have that. Very sweet, yeah.
Well, it must have been his intention too to provide you with the basis and fundamentals so that you could go and do what he had done.
Oh yeah, I think he would have been very proud. Who did that? Is that you? Dude, you got yourself a T-shirt.
Look at that. Look at that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you've been, what's that? Animaniacs.
Oh,
Does that mean
yeah.
something to you? Animaniacs.
Well, Animaniacs, we got, yeah, I mean, Animaniacs and Chuckie, Rugrats.
Chuckie on the Rugrats? That was a cool job.
Yeah, just some other shows that I had done over the years that were just such a blast. Riding that through. Mindy on Animaniacs.
I love you, lady. Bye-bye.
I was only in like 1/5, I think, of the shows I wasn't in a lot of them. But that one little character, the little 2-year-old Mindy on the tether with the dog buttons. Cute. Lily Pad, like, that was a good one. Yeah, that was the character that I developed for the radio station. She was like the very first, kind of like a precursor to Bart an earlier relative, I guess, on the family tree, I guess. But Lily Pad was, it was sort of like they did the show, the imaginary poolside show with Ken Warren, and I was the lifeguard, and I named myself Lily Pad because it was the pool, and she would say, God, I don't even remember. Oh, man, you are putting me on the spot. It's like, oh, the olives are getting stuck. It was sort of like a very Bart on helium kind of a voice. The staff has thrown their martinis into the pool, and now the olives are, clogging the drain. Let's go to weather and traffic.
Do you have characters that you still keep in the back pocket that you're ready to bring to life whenever somebody is interested, and where there's a need for it or something that hasn't been used yet?
Well, that Mara Wilson, that one I haven't really used yet, and I've got a character that I created her, Darlene Davenport. She was like a live action character that I did. She's from the South, and she's got this whole thing that she just loves people. Her whole viewpoint on life, if you can just imagine. Let's just go to my kitchen. Let's just go to my kitchen right now, because I'm going to whip you up some Rice Krispie treats. Are you game? And I think that she's fun. And I think she's got red hair. I don't know.
You've done some videos with her, haven't you?
I have.
People could probably find them on your website at nancycartwright.com. Well, listen, I do have to call. We could talk here for hours. It's been a really gracious time spent with you. Thanks so much for sharing your adventures. Nancy Cartwright.
Thank you so much.
Can you guys please
My
make sure you
pleasure.
turn in your evaluation forms, okay?